Thank you, folks. This is the other session that I've been really looking forward to. As Marcin said, he led an industry party to San Francisco, and one of the things that we were taught to do was how to pitch. And Chris McClelland came up with the best pitch I've ever heard, and it was quite simply, we have a robot that makes beer. Any questions? And that kind of says it all. So we're going to look at two different startups. It's probably more two presentations than a conversation at this stage, but we'll hand over to Chris to give his insights into the BrewBot story.
Thank you. So yeah, we created a robot that makes beer. Let me work this out. So yeah, my name's Chris McClelland. I'm the CEO of BrewBot. I'm going to tell you why I'm standing on a stage in Belfast at a technology company with a bottle of beer. So we're probably best known for developing iPhone apps, or I am maybe, and I sort of was at university doing my music degree, and all of a sudden I fell into the sort of trap of using computers for making music. And before long I was doing my PhD at Queen's, and sort of realized, the iPhone came out, and I've actually got all these skills that I can use from a development perspective, but also things like design and things that I sort of picked up along the way. So I said, why aren't we doing this, and why don't we start a company that makes iPhone apps? And this is where Ecliptic came along, and we built about 80 apps, tens of millions of downloads. We sort of learned a lot. We learned a lot about client work and sort of how difficult that is at times, and sort of, all these brick walls that client work sort of brings you to, and you sort of go, we want to do more, we want to do more. So there was always a desire to build a product. I think many companies will say that as well, but it's not always that rosy. But we were sort of always on the lookout for something. The other thing that happens when you're developing apps and design work and technology like you guys is that you're always sort of consumed with the screen. You're always sort of looking at it going, okay, it's all about pixels and it's all about, programming languages. Generally speaking. This is Kieran, one of our developers. That's his hair in the corner. And he's sort of working on some iOS apps. It's actually BrewBot's app. But this is also Kieran. So this is Kieran. This is the start of BrewBot, really. This is where we started to go, okay, we want to do something more tangible. We want to use our hands to develop things and sort of get our hands dirty. And this is actually a plastic bucket. This is the cheapest way possible that we could start brewing. This is boring a hole that we're then about to put some kettles into. And this is a really common story with homebrewing. Like, you sort of hack things, you sort of put these things all together, and you sort of make the unit. Sorry, where's this point to? But this is what we're trying to make, and this is a boil kettle in the brewing process. And it gets filled with water, and you've got these elements in, and it heats it to a certain temperature. But when we went to switch this on, this happened. Homebrewing is really dangerous. This is like water and electricity, and it's some sort of hack thing. So it's a death trap. But I survived, and we sort of kept building this, and we kept iterating. And this points out another thing. This is our Breaking Bad thing. So basically, it gets very like this, and this is another problem with homebrewing, because you end up with all these stainless steel objects, and sort of, it's very a thing that's not in the front of your house or anything. It's hidden away. This is filling water into this as well. It's very inaccurate. And we were running up and down stairs to check the temperature and the timings and stuff, and we said, look, why aren't we using push notifications? Why aren't we using the things that we know about to help solve this industry? And we thought the timing was right. There's actually a time where people are more interested in craft, being involved in understanding how food is made, also the whole environmental effect of shipping things around the world. Instead, you can make your own. So we thought there's something in this, and that's why we went, okay, let's create BrewBot. And this is like the cheapest possible way that we could start developing BrewBot. This is something that Toyota actually does with their cars. They sort of sit around and discover form factors and talk about them and get more tangible and see them really cheaply and really quickly. It's called the lean engineering, which is now part of the business world as well. But we were doing all this, and basically this is how it looked in our office. And we had something that was working. And we were sort of working with the electronics and 3D sort of models. Bear in mind, we're all designers and developers, and this is testament to what's happening right now in terms of hardware design. It's becoming more accessible. But we were doing this, and we realized, okay, there's actually, we've hit a point. We were drilling holes in stainless steel in the office, which was starting to become dangerous and also, messy. But we realized that there was we needed to bring some people on. And we brought along a company called Met. They're from Bath, and they worked with Jamie Oliver and people like that in terms of helping their designers' kitchens. And we believe that that aesthetic is something that's really interesting right now in terms of appliances. No other appliance in your kitchen will look like this, but maybe in a few years' time it will. This is BrewBot. This is this beautiful thing that we had sitting in our office going, how do we launch this? I'll just give you a quick introduction to what happens with BrewBot. BrewBot's connected with an iPhone app. It's a connected device. It uses Wi-Fi. The app is like a window inside this appliance. It actually tells you what goes on. The user or the brewer will be asked to pick a recipe, and they can design it themselves, add more champagne yeast, or add elderflower, or add a different type of chocolate. You can do this with beer, and there's a vast spectrum of things you can do. But the app lets you monitor and sort of control the whole process. It adds the right amount of water and temperature and all those things. But the best thing is that we're recording all that information so that someone else, or you can, or someone else in another part of the world could make the exact same beer. Once it comes out of BrewBot, you stack it away for a couple of weeks, and you've got some really amazing beer. So we did want to know how to launch this, and we went, okay, we could just go out and do a few press releases and all that sort of stuff. But we were sort of thinking that it was a good product to put on a crowdfunding site, and that's why we went with Kickstarter. Kickstarter, we assessed them all, but Kickstarter was the strongest for us. And we basically went into Kickstarter going, okay, we've got 1 month, and we have to do as best we can about this. And sort of get it out there. We were putting everything into it. And that's a good thing about Kickstarter. As a company, as any product should really put themselves into that moment and really try to find a way of accelerating that press of your product. So we were sort of looking around the world, and we went back to Portland, which we sort of got us hooked on beer in the first place. We flew over there and put ourselves out of our comfort zone, brought the whole team and went, this is, we're going to put ourselves here and try and promote it out here. It's a cauldron of fire, but it's actually the home brewing capital of the world. So we were actually getting a ton of feedback. It was a really interesting way to sort of get the team into another place and do that. This is BrewBot being shipped away, and we were aiming for this conference called XOXO. We had a couple of days spare, and we realized, okay, we'll get it there next day using FedEx, 800 quid or something like that. It was insane. But it was worth it. But we arrived in Portland, but BrewBot didn't. This is customs. This is a notification that customs came in and said it's being held up. You have to pay all these taxes and all that sort of stuff. But BrewBot did arrive, and Kickstarter's got this approval process, a bit like Apple actually, where they sort of go and think about the product and give you good feedback, and it's really good actually. But they came back and rejected our application, so we had to scramble with 24 hours to try and build BrewBot to work in the US. It only worked in the UK. But again, this is a testament of having a team in a space, all crowded around a space. This is in the middle of this conference. We were actually trying to make this work in the US. And the night before the conference, the lights had went out. Someone had broken them. But we were sitting there with iPhone torches trying to build BrewBot into this, and make it work. So we actually did it, and the next morning we launched it at about 10 a.m. In the middle of the conference. Our first sale was one of the speakers that just went up onto stage. By the way, Ed just bought a BrewBot in the green room, which is brilliant. So basically, yeah, we sort of launched it, and this is the next minute after we launched it. It was straight onto our phones, it was straight into promotion mode. We had to tell the world, and we were absolutely shameless about this. Hundreds of emails a day, and we were emailing everybody. We had a list, a huge list, and we'd assessed them. The really good thing to do from a press perspective is to find the person you want to speak about it on, say, TechCrunch or whatever, and then find a touch point for them that's really personal. They will read your email and become more in touch with it. And that personality is a key word to what we've done in BrewBot. It's all about a personal beer that you produce at the end, but the unit's personal, and how you sort of brew your beer. We got insane amount of coverage, which was brilliant, and we were some of the stuff came through without us even asking, which is brilliant. and sort of like, Discovery Channel, they're still trying to get us to do some more stuff with them. And we're in Financial Times this weekend as well. But it's a constant sort of PR thing, and to be honest, PR can distract you as well. We're finding that it's almost a full-time job. One little story inside the Kickstarter thing, we sort of decided that we were actually going to go to San Francisco because, it's a tech capital of the US, really. And we went there, and this is one idea to get all the guys down to into San Francisco, but in fact, what we did was order an RV, and this is another Breaking Bad moment in our in our story. But the worst thing about this was I made a mistake of rushing out of Portland and only getting myself on the license, and realized that it's a lot of miles, like 3 times the length of Ireland to San Francisco, which was painful. With BrewBot in the back, and the other bad thing about this is there's no 3G network on the journey, so we were stopping off at every point and trying to do some work and sort of catch up with all the sort of publicity that was going on. When we arrived in San Francisco, we contacted everybody we knew, and we went into Square, the engineering team bought BrewBot, also GitHub, all these people we went to. GitHub bought BrewBot as well, but Twitter as well. We went in and sort of like rocked in an RV, took BrewBot off the back, and walked into these places. But I suppose the message here is that all these things are possible. It was just a way of communicating with these people, and these amazing people, like our idols, were sitting looking at BrewBot going, wow. But we had sort of learned a lot from that and really motivated us to do what we've done. So we succeeded on Kickstarter, and it was tough. It was ups and downs, and one of the founders of Kickstarter, one of the founding team of Kickstarter, actually said to us that it was going to be a very, very difficult one. It was because of the price and the shipping of it all and all those sort of things. So it was a difficult one, but we pushed through. And this is the graph of us making all the pledges and then coming in, and you see all these dips and troughs. And even like the crash in the US happened during it, and that affected our Kickstarter campaign. It was really hard to predict, and people were dropping off and not buying or rejecting their BrewBot orders. So it was really hard hitting, but there's also lots of high fives in the middle of this. Most times BrewBot came in as all high fives. So it was a really interesting story. BrewBot, the amazing thing for us now is that we've actually got this, they're about to be shipped in the next couple of months, but we've got this network of BrewBots in the world, and for us that's a connected group of breweries, and that's sort of starting to blow our minds, the idea that there's all these people with consistent brewing devices, and if we can control the exact same parameters, then it's interesting. We're breaking down all these export and duty laws as well by transporting beer instead of in bottles, but by ingredients. I suppose another thing that is back to the personal touch. This is all about branding. It's all about how you can present someone with a bottle that's really means something to them. And this is my business card bottle actually at the moment. I hand people bottles of beer as my business card. And this is actually the people who run Spain talking about a bottle of BrewBot, a bottle that BrewBot made. And just last night I was with Prince Andrew, who had a business function in London, and they were serving BrewBot beers at the Palace. And there was princesses there, and Jonathan Ross was even there, and an amazing community of business people. It's brilliant, and it's amazing what BrewBot has done for us. Thank you very much for listening. My time's up, and thank you.
Thank you, Chris. You weren't wrong about the shameless bit, by the way. A different story entirely. I don't know the Total Attorneys pitch, but I'm sure Ed will tell us about it. So, Ed from Chicago.
Chicago.
Founder of Total Attorneys. Take it away.
Thanks. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a real honor to be here. I'm going to tell you the story of Total Attorneys and also go into a new startup I'm working on as well. So you're actually going to get a tale of 3 startups rather than 2 in this session. So I started Total Attorneys about 12 years ago in my apartment in Chicago's Bucktown neighborhood. Started it with a credit card, laptop, and cell phone, and actually went on Google Images, and I found the actual cell phone and laptop I used back then, which was 12 years ago, kind of dating myself. Started out as a web development agency. So we started out developing web applications and doing IT work for small businesses. We did network development, network support, office relocation, internet connectivity, help desk, training, web development, online marketing, all from this small little apartment. So basically what it was me, and I was selling these services and then getting contractors to go out and actually deliver them. See, in 2002, the dot-com bubble had just burst, and the previous companies I'd worked for, I was selling web development and consulting services anywhere from $20,000 to $150,000, and no one was buying that anymore. So I said, I can go out and start a company, and all these friends I have that no longer have jobs will go and deliver these services, and I can find a way to deliver all these. So I did some cold calling, and I started to find some people to buy these services, but there was also this new thing called Google AdWords. And so I started buying some ads for Google AdWords. When you searched for IT help, I'd come up #1, and it was really inexpensive at the time, like 10 cents a click. And started getting a lot of leads that way. I said, wow, this is really interesting. So I went and found a ticket broker client that I'd known from past experiences and said, can I build you guys a website and throw some Google ads at it and see if we can drive some traffic? I said, sure. So I put $7,000 into Google, and in the first month sold $70,000 worth of YouTube, Bruce Springsteen, Chicago Cubs, sort of resale tickets. And I said, aha, this is the business. So from there, I went out and found a number of other companies that needed online marketing strategies. One of those was one of the larger consumer law firms in the country, and developed them a website and put together an online marketing campaign, and essentially didn't really know was doing this, but invented legal lead generation online. Just by driving ads to a website, people filled out a form, and it went to this law firm. So after about 6 or 7 months, we moved into these luxurious offices. This is in the Chicago Athletic Association. It's no longer around, but they had a floor that hadn't been used in about 50 years. They let me go in there and knock down the walls and scrape the walls down, and I turned 2 old hotel rooms into one office. And these contractors that I was working with, a few of them started to become full-time. So we got up to 5 people in that little space. That window looked out at a luxurious brick wall, and started building the business. So after about a year and a half of working with this one law firm, we'd helped them expand from 7 states to 19 states, and we took the internet from under 1% of their business to over 50% of their business. And the partner there was looking at me running this now 14-person web development company and seeing me have a lot more fun than him running this, this more old traditional law firm. And he said, what if I came and joined you? And we partnered together, and we started talking about building this platform that basically took the services that I'd built for his firm as an agency, but productized it into a platform. So we immediately went out and launched Total Attorney's platform, started with a bunch of different topical specific websites, total injury, total divorce, total social security, total tax, total bankruptcy, you name it. We drove traffic to these websites, and when someone filled out one of the forms requesting a free legal evaluation, we'd created a network of attorneys across the United States to purchase those forms. So the forms would come in, and we'd sell the lead for anywhere from $20 to $100, depending on the geography and practice area. We also populated that lead into an automated sales and marketing software platform. Small law firms in the US are very busy. It's generally 1 or 2 lawyers and maybe a support staff, and they do everything. They run to court, they have to brew the coffee, answer the phones, fill out all the files, everything. So we built a software that allowed them to create automation around some of the tasks, whether it be sending out drip emails or reminding them to make follow-up calls or updating the status so that the right emails could be sent to consumers. We also found that they had trouble actually just calling the people that we were driving the leads for, so we built out an entire call center so that when a lead came in, we could get that consumer on the phone and transfer it to the lawyer on their cell phone or in their office, wherever they wanted to, taking that administrative burden away from them. So over the course of about 5 years, we grew the company over $30 million in revenue. We got it up to over 200 employees. Lots of different accolades. We were the 2nd fastest growing company in Chicago, Crane Chicago Business, number 169 on the Inc. 500, and really, had a very fun ride. So in 2011, I recruited in an advisory board member to become CEO. I moved to chairman. We raised a $15 million round from Bain Capital Ventures, and the business is now running. I realized I didn't know what a chairman did, so I decided it was time to go out and do a new startup. So my co-founder Kevin and I, who is the attorney that ran the law firm, have recently gone out and started Upright Law. Upright Law is an online law firm where we're actually delivering legal services virtually over the internet. We're starting out in the bankruptcy category. There's lots of consumers struggling with financial situations all over the world, and especially in the US as well. So this helps consumers deal with substantial credit card debt, medical bills, student loans, whatever the case may be. But the way we're doing it's very unique. For example, yesterday I was talking with one of the attorneys, David Leibowitz, and he said he consulted with 7 people across the state of Arizona in 1 hour. David's one of the most highly respected consumer rights attorneys in the United States. These people in Arizona would have had to drive hours and hours and hours just to be able to get to him, because Arizona is a very long state, as you mentioned, driving from Portland to San Francisco. This is driving through the desert. And David said, this is amazing. I was able to have a very, very great conversation with all these people and provide to them a great level of service. So that's what we're building. We're building the ability to take technology, process, and customer service, and then taking the best legal minds in the country and building a solution so that we can broaden access to justice across the United States. So this is what our offices look like right now. We're up to about 35 people. If any of you have ever been in a law office before, this probably doesn't look like one that you've walked in before. We're intentionally looking a lot more like a technology startup, and we're treating it that way. We're building a definitive platform to help consumers get access to justice. So that is Upright Law and Total Attorneys, 2 for the price of 1.